Let me ask you something right now. Have you ever watched someone walk away from you thinking they just won? Thinking they could replace your loyalty, your love, your presence like you were disposable? Well, guess what? That moment will haunt them, not you. Because regret doesn't visit the one who stayed loyal, it chases the one who ran. So if you're still hurting good, let that pain fuel your power. Let it remind you of your worth. Because one day your absence will be the loudest thing in their life. And when regret finally knocks on their door, you won't even be home. Avoidant individuals don't walk away from you because you were too much. They walk away because they weren't prepared for the depth of what you brought into their life. You offered something real. You offered emotional safety, acceptance, and connection, the very things they claim to want, but are often too terrified to face. You became their mirror. You reflected back to them everything they were running from. And here's the thing about mirrors, they don't lie. You didn't love them with conditions. You loved them with presence. You stood in their storms when others ran. You listened when their silence screamed. You made space for them when they didn't even make space for themselves. And yet they pulled away not because you were too much, but because their own emotional wiring told them they weren't enough. Deep down, avoidant individuals struggle with intimacy not because they don't desire it, but because they fear being exposed. Vulnerability feels like danger to them, not safety. So when you got close, they panicked. When you offered love, they heard pressure. When you gave consistency, they felt trapped. But what they don't understand now, what they will understand later, is that what you gave wasn't weakness. It was strength. It takes power to love someone through their shutdowns. It takes courage to stay when someone keeps pushing you away. And you did that. Again and again, they mistook your compassion for naivety. They confused your patience with passivity. They didn't realize that emotional safety isn't common, it's a rare gift. You were the safe place they never had growing up. You were the emotional home they never learned how to live in. And because they never learned how to receive that kind of love, they rejected it. But here's what's inevitable. At some point, maybe when the next relationship feels hollow, or when the night is too quiet, they'll remember. Not just you, but how they felt with you, safe, understood, whole. And that memory will become a weight. Because they'll realize they let go of someone who wasn't trying to change them. Someone who simply wanted to love them as they were. And that realization, that's when the regret starts to sink in. Because true emotional safety can't be faked, and it sure as hell can't be replaced. You were not just a chapter in their life. You were the page they should have never turned. While they were busy running in circles, stuck in loops of avoidance and emotional shutdown, you were evolving. You took the pain, the confusion, the unanswered questions, and you turned it into fuel. Every tear you cried, every sleepless night you endured, every time you questioned your worth because of their silence, you were actually being refined. You were becoming stronger, clearer, more powerful, not out of spite, but because survival demanded it. You didn't stay broken. You rebuilt yourself piece by piece. And while you were growing, they were repeating the same patterns, pulling the same tricks, ghosting people when things got deep, sabotaging connections the moment they felt real, jumping from one shallow interaction to another, convinced that keeping things surface level would protect them from pain. But what they don't understand is that avoiding pain also means avoiding depth, avoiding healing, avoiding real love. So while they chase distraction after distraction, you've been building a version of yourself they wouldn't even recognize now. You're no longer waiting for closure. You are the closure. They thought they could leave and you'd stay stuck, but you've been moving forward in ways they never expected. You've learned how to set boundaries, how to protect your peace, how to choose yourself without apology. And there's something magnetic about a person who knows their worth, someone who's no longer accessible to what once broke them. That's you now. You're not cold, you're wise. You're not angry, you're aware. You no longer fight for someone who wouldn't even fight for themselves. Here's what's going to happen. One day they'll look back, hoping to find you in someone else, hoping that the next person gives them what you did, but they won't, because you are rare. You are real. And in the time they've been running from growth, you've become unreachable, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You've outgrown the version of them that once made you question your value. Regret doesn't come when they first walk away. It comes when they see you again, maybe in person, maybe online, maybe just in their mind, and realize they can't reach you anymore. Not because you're playing games, but because you've evolved. You're not bitter, you're better. And that transformation, that's what they'll never be able to undo. Avoidant people don't fear love itself, they fear what comes with real love: exposure, vulnerability, and responsibility. Love isn't just sweet words and good times. Real love requires you to show up, to be seen, to take accountability for how your wounds affect someone else. And for someone who's spent their life protecting themselves with distance and emotional walls, that's terrifying. You didn't just love them, you saw them. You saw the pain behind their detachment. You saw the moments they flinched from affection, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to receive care. You recognized the inconsistencies in their words and actions, but instead of walking away, you leaned in. You tried to understand, to love them through it, to hold space for their complexity. That kind of patience, that level of emotional intelligence is rare. And they didn't know how to handle it. It's not that they didn't want love, it's that they weren't ready to be held accountable to the standard of real connection. Because love, true love, reflects everything back to you. It demands you look at your own patterns. It doesn't let you hide behind charm or disappear when things get uncomfortable. And when you refuse to accept breadcrumbs, when you ask for honesty, for depth, for presence, they felt threatened. Not because you were wrong to ask, but because meeting you at that level meant facing parts of themselves they've spent years avoiding. So instead, they pulled away. Maybe they blamed you. Maybe they said you were too emotional or too intense. But deep down, they knew. They knew you were right. They knew you were asking for what any healthy relationship needs. And instead of rising to meet that, they chose the easy path: distance, silence, disconnection. But avoidance doesn't erase the truth, it just delays the reckoning. One day they'll come face to face with the moment they can't run from. A moment where they see that no one else gets them like you did. No one else calls out their patterns with love and not judgment. And that's when it will hit them: you weren't the problem. You were the mirror. And losing you wasn't just losing a relationship, it was losing the one person who truly understood them. That's not the kind of loss people move on from easily. That's the kind of loss that lingers. Regret doesn't always strike like lightning. It creeps in slowly, quietly, long after they've convinced themselves they made the right choice. It shows up when they least expect it, when the noise fades and they're left alone with their thoughts. While they're out there trying to fill the void with distractions, new faces, temporary thrills, surface-level connections, something starts to stir inside them. A quiet discomfort, a subtle ache. And then, out of nowhere, a memory of you returns. Not just what you look like, but how it felt to be around you, the peace, the acceptance. The way your presence made life feel a little less heavy. That's when it starts. Regret is slow burn, and it doesn't announce itself with drama. It slips into the quiet spaces. When they hear a song you used to play, when they drive past a place you both visited, when they see someone laugh the way you used to, and for just a second, they feel that familiar warmth again, only to realize it's not you. It's never going to be you. Because you're gone. And not just physically. You're gone emotionally, mentally. Spiritually, they had access to you once and they didn't value it. Now they can't get it back, no matter how much they wish they could. And the hardest part, you're not waiting. You're not sitting around hoping they return. You're not checking your phone at midnight. You've closed the door not out of bitterness, but out of strength. You've outgrown the dynamic that made you shrink. You no longer need validation from the one who couldn't even validate themselves. You're not playing hard to get, you're just unavailable in every sense of the word. That's what makes regret so painful. It isn't just missing you, it's realizing they can't reach you anymore. It's knowing they had something pure, something real, and they let fear dictate their decision. And now, no matter who they date, no matter where they go, there will be a voice in the back of their mind reminding them, you had something good. You pushed it away. And now it's too late. Regret doesn't knock while you're standing at the door, it knocks after you've walked away and locked the door behind you. And when it finally shows up for them, you'll already be somewhere they can't follow because you've moved on, grown up, and claimed the life they were too afraid to build with you. So if you're sitting there wondering why it still hurts, why the silence still stings, understand this: your pain isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign that you showed up fully. You gave what so many are afraid to give: your heart, your energy, your presence. You were real in a world where too many play games, and the person who walked away from that wasn't strong, they were scared. Scared of how deeply you felt. Scared of how much you saw. Scared of being loved without having earned it. But that fear doesn't last forever. Sooner or later, it turns into realization. And realization over time becomes regret. That's the process they're going to go through while you're already moving on with your life. You see, avoidant people run, but they can't outrun themselves. They can block your number, mute your name, erase your photos, but they can't erase the experience. They can't delete the version of themselves that showed up when they were with you. And over time, they'll come to realize that what they had with you wasn't ordinary, it was sacred. You didn't just offer love, you offered healing. And when they compare that to the shallow replacements and emotionally safe distances they keep with others, the contrast will hit hard. It won't be instant. It won't be dramatic. But it will be inescapable. That feeling that something rare slipped through their fingers and they'll know it was their own walls that pushed it away. But you won't be the same person anymore. You won't be reachable by the same door they once closed. Because while they were running, you were rising. You were discovering who you are without needing their validation. You were breaking. Free from the idea that someone else's emotional limitations define your worth. You were becoming the version of yourself that no longer accepts breadcrumbs, silence, or confusion. And that's the ultimate shift, not just healing from them, but evolving into someone they no longer qualify to be with. You didn't just survive what happened, you transformed because of it. So stand tall. Not because you want to make them regret it, but because you finally realize you were never the one who lost. They lost you. They lost the version of themselves they could have become beside you. They lost a future they weren't brave enough to hold. And the most poetic justice of all, while they'll be haunted by the memory of your presence, you'll be out there living a life so full, so rich, so grounded, that their name won't even echo in your heart anymore. That's not revenge. That's liberation. That's closure. That's power. Thank you for watching and allowing me to speak truth into your healing journey. If this message stirred something in your soul, it's because deep down you already know your worth. You just needed a reminder. Remember, your absence is powerful, and your growth is the best response to the ones who couldn't see your value when they had the chance. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that speaks to your strength, your healing, and your evolution. Until next time, take your power back, protect your peace, and never forget the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now, and thank you for being here.